Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Redesign Your Life today. I'm Daniel Kobryner, your host, and I'm a mental fitness coach. This podcast is about transformation, and it's about sharing stories of guests who had really big transformations in their life, who overcome a lot of issues, and who really want to share. And Today, I have a very special guest, and I'm very honored to have Matt Melvin with us. Matt had a long, a story of quite a few dramas and some challenges in his life at various levels, and now he's transformed. And I would like you now, Matt, just to tell us a little more about your story. If you just said a few words, but if you want to tell about your story, and then we'll go from there.
My name is Matt Melvin. I wrote a book called Bullied Behind Bars. A gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison. I wrote it the second time I was in prison. It's a memoir of my life.
Mhm. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your life, Matt? If you want to share a little bit from, perhaps the way, when you were younger and what happened and things like that.
I was born in Massachusetts.
Hmm.
I lived there until I was 7 years old. I had a best friend that lived behind me and the school bully that lived next to me. The individual that lived behind me, we were best friends because he had a swimming pool, in-ground swimming pool. I've always been a swimmer. I love swimming. For me, it's a way to relieve stress and anxiety.
Hmm.
And still today, I love swimming, especially in the ocean. The ocean is freedom.
Okay.
I was bullied throughout all of my childhood. In 1988, my father got a job at Franklin County Home Health in Vermont. They made the unfortunate decision to migrate north, and that was the biggest mistake my parents could have made. Vermont is very isolating. Yes, it's beautiful, it's pretty. It's very hard to meet people. It's the second lowest population state in the US. Wyoming is number one.
Okay. Hmm.
I've always had challenges fitting in. I have autism. I'm on the Asperger's spectrum. And the way I come to the world is different than other people do. The way I process information is different than everybody else.
Hmm.
I wasn't diagnosed until 35.
Wow. Okay. And Matt, how did it affect your life? This because did you always feel that you were different from other people?
I did. I was always different.
Hmm.
I have the shadow of autism is impulsivity, which explains all of my actions. The first was I worked at a car dealership in 2004. They didn't pay me my commissions. I impulsively tried to sell one of their cars. Impulsivity. Instead of going through the mental health court, Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford both decided I didn't meet the criteria. As a result, I went through the traditional court, came out with a record. If I went through the mental health court, was allowed to go through the mental health court, I may not have a record today. In
Hmm.
2009, I used other people's information to pass a background check. I did the work. The government pursued me for 6 years, finally got a grand jury indictment against me in 2016, and I was indicted for identity theft and money laundering. Impulsivity. All
Right.
of these examples of crimes are impulsive. The impulsivity still today hasn't gone away. It's no different. However, I now have tools that I can use. We always have tools. We can either use them for good or bad.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until I had a near-death experience in August 2015, driving on 495 headed east, when a Lexus SUV came down an embankment, crossed in front of my car, but by the grace of God, I was saved, I was protected. And that was the moment that I turned my life over to God and started living for Him instead of doing my own will.
Wow, I understand. And can you tell us about this near-death experience? How does it manifest, for people who don't know what it is?
I was going 72 miles an hour, which is very slow for me. I've been known to go 130. But by the grace of God, I was protected. I was saved.
Hmm.
God was looking out for me. But it was, I believe God was drawing a line in the sand. And He was saying, you're either going to do my will or you're going to do your own will. And your own will got you in jail twice, has you with a criminal record. And if you can continue with your own will, you're going to continue with the recidivism rate. 1 out of 5 Americans today have a criminal record, a felony on the record.
I understand. Right. Okay. So your life changed completely, after this experience, you would say.
It did. I started doing God's will instead of my own will. Because when I do my own will, what I want, it's always selfish. It's the ego. What
Hmm.
can other people do for me instead of what can I do for other people? That's what I'm here to do, to tell your audience is when you start helping other people, then they will help you. If you come to the world expecting other people to do something for you, you will be sorely disappointed.
I have to say, I resonate fully with you, Matt. I mean, I've got the same belief that each of us is on this planet for a mission. If you believe or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's about, what are we meant to? It's really to leave this planet a better place. And we all have unique abilities and we have different conditions, you say, but with our unique conditions, we've got as well some unique talents which we can use for the best of humanity. Would you agree with this statement?
No question. We have abilities that can either help people or hurt people.
Exactly, exactly. And it's when we when we when we give, when we help others without expectations, this makes a big difference. It's really we do it because we enjoy doing it. We do it from our heart. But the interesting thing is when we do that, things are starting to appear as well. Because, if we believe perhaps in the universe, God, it's like, the more we do, the more we are provided with the ability to help.
And that's what I'm here to do is to help others. I'm at the end, I'll give you my email address and any of your viewers that want to reach out to me, email me. Let me know what's going on. And I'm happy to help you in any capacity I can.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you. And before you mentioned the word tools, that you said, okay, now you have tools. Can you go a little more into details in about these tools?
For most of my life, I was taught to stuff my emotions, to not show anger, sadness, all those emotions that we as men are taught to suffocate.
Hmm.
It wasn't until March of 2022 when I started doing men's work and sharing my story and seeing how I got to where I am today and seeing other men share vulnerably about their life experiences that I started making connections that were all here for the same reasons. All of the guys that come to the weekend want to work on themselves. They all want to be a better man, husband, father to kids or their significant others. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So I think for me, one of the key elements for friendship is I want a man or a woman that says, I'm not perfect. I want to work on myself. I'm open to constructive criticism. Using I statements. That's another really important thing that I've learned. When I do this, it makes me feel blank. Or, when you do this.
Hmm. I
And
understand.
when people use you, we, they statements, that takes out complete accountability. I encourage people to use I statements because my experience is different than everybody else's experience. And when we start using you, we, they, it removes personal responsibility and it removes any ownership for what is going on.
Hmm. Absolutely. And you see, this again fully resonates with me. You see what I'm doing, Matt. I'm a mental fitness coach. What does it mean? Is I help people understanding the saboteurs, which are this program running on autopilot in their mind. And it's about behaviors which you acquire from being a very young baby, So, and this is like conditioning and comes mainly from your parents, the interactions, but afterwards with school, with your friends, etc. For instance, some people says, "Oh, I'm a people pleaser. I always please people, right?" And first, it comes from something which is good. It's nice to be kind. But sometimes if you overdo it, if you abuse it, for instance, if you do it because you expect something, you expect to be loved, you expect others to give back and it's not coming, and then you are frustrated and you are angry. So you see, so this would be one. For instance, it could be being a controller. A controller, what does it mean? It's somebody who wants to control everything in their lives, all the outcomes, and they even if they work with someone, they want to see exactly what the person is doing, kind of removing autonomy from other people. So what happens is and these we acquire as strengths when we are very, very young, because in the first 7 years of our lives, we take everything in without filter. We are like in a hypnosis state. It's called the theta brainwave, and basically we everything gets registered in our subconscious mind without us realizing. So we think this is the truth, this is it. So what happens is by default, we repeat the same behaviors over and over again, which are linked to the emotions which we had when we were young. So, and the the understanding is really that we need to become aware of these saboteurs, and then we can change them, we can reframe, we can rewire our subconscious mind and get new beliefs. Because and what you said before is very powerful, Matt, is yes, very often we are brought up asked to completely suppress our emotions, not to talk about that. This is terrible. It's terrible because what happens is they don't go away, but we store them in our body, and then if we cannot express them, what happens is really it leads to physical diseases, emotional diseases, mental diseases. So I would encourage everyone, like you do, really to speak out. Find somebody you can talk to, and really you can talk openly. Life happens. Life happens. Sometimes it's difficult. But afterwards, what's the difference between people is what do we make of what happened? If we are staying angry all our time, all our life, and resentful, the only person who is going to be exactly who's going to suffer is us. So if we learn to really take a step back, sometimes to forgive, because if we forgive others, we can forgive ourselves as well. And then life becomes much easier. So how does this resonate with you, Matt, if I may ask?
It wasn't until I started forgiving those people that had caused me harm
Hmm.
that the healing really began. If you don't forgive somebody else, they are living rent free in your head. If you are a people pleaser, I highly recommend you read the book No More Mr. Nice Guy. Highly recommend it. I've never read it. I'm not a people pleaser. I'm a very direct person. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm going to tell you what I think, because sugarcoating, people pleasing, it's really wearing a mask. It's pretending to be somebody that you're not. And it really only hurts the individual. The other thing I want to encourage people is take your calendar. Look at how much of your day is spent being proactive versus being reactive. In
Mhm.
other words, how much of your calendar is spent fighting fires, putting out small problems versus completing tasks.
Mhm. So important. Yeah. No, so important. And can you tell us a little bit about your book, Matt? I mean, what are the, you know, perhaps a little bit about the story as well, and what do we take from that?
I wrote my book primarily when I was locked up the second time. I went to 10 different institutions. I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement.
Hmm.
The institution may have had my body, however, they didn't have my mind. And I was taking a lot of risk. I was doing something similar to Anne Frank when she was in Nazi Germany and trying to help Jewish folks. In a way, I wanted to share my story,
Hmm.
let people on the outside world know what goes on.
Hmm.
We have shows like 60 Days In that sensationalize prison. I don't believe that that's actually what happens. It is really bad. However, that's when the cameras are running. When the cameras aren't running, it's a lot different place. So I was taking a lot of risks. And at one of the
Hmm.
institutions, they actually took my journal entries and I had to recreate them.
You
When
had
I
to
came
read.
out, it took me another 2 years to get it published. So it took me about 6 years.
Okay, right. Uh-huh. And so, when was it published, Matt?
February 2022.
Okay. And tell me, what happened afterwards? I mean, obviously you published your book, so now, and and did your life kind of change? I mean, did you get, to speak about your book on different platforms and and did you meet some new people, perhaps? What happened afterwards?
I've met very high level people in government who
Hmm.
told me they would help me. They haven't done anything. Most people, they want to see what you can do for them rather than how they can help you.
Okay.
I've been on a lot of podcasts. I've had many people say, I want to help you, and then they don't come through.
Right. Okay. And so I suppose, and how do you feel about that?
My thoughts are most people only want to be friends with you as long as there's some benefit, usually financial. And once
Hmm.
that benefit goes away, so does the friendship. I've seen that in friendships. I've worked on a couple of political campaigns. That's how most people operate.
Exactly. So I suppose that actually these friendships were never real friendships. They were perhaps from your side, but not from the other side because there was an interest there. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And do
So
you?
today, my friendships, I establish the better boundaries. And I think it's really important to set up boundaries. That way, it doesn't jeopardize the friendship. I had a friendship for 37 years and it was ruined because I loaned the woman money. And when I asked to get repaid, that was the end of the friendship. So from here on out, I don't loan money to friends. It's either a gift or it doesn't happen.
I understand that. Yeah. It's. I mean, isn't it terrible that a 37 years friendship can be ruined by that? I mean, and I suppose you were not expecting this from this other person, not to kind of.
No, I was absolutely expecting that she would pay me back. I have tried to connect with her on multiple occasions. However, she is so bitter, she is so angry that it's a complete and utter waste of time. And instead of saying seeing her role,
Hmm.
It's all projection. And that's also, I think, a very important piece when you have a friendship is if there is a falling out or there is some kind of issue that happens, look at how often the friend plays victim.
Hmm.
If they point the finger at you and don't say any of the blame that they have in the relationship, it's move on. I've seen this. It still happens to me today, unfortunately. When I see that, it's a red flag. It means this person is incapable of seeing their roles. It takes two to tango. One person is not, very rarely. I'll give you an example. If I'm parked at my house and somebody hits my car, I am there's no fault of my own, right? Because my car was parked and somebody hit my car.
Hmm.
That's an exception. However, when there's two personalities, it is absolutely impossible for one person to be innocent and the other person to be 100% guilty.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I now have the tools to see what role did I play? How did we get here?
Absolutely. And you see, it makes me think of one thing. I don't know if you've read a book which is called The Four Agreements. It's quite interesting. It's about it comes from the Toltec civilization, and it's about principles in life that the Toltecs, which were before the Aztecs, used to have. And the first agreement, it says, be impeccable with your word. This is very powerful. It means if you say you do something, you do it. It says don't lie. It says, be accountable. It says, and when you start applying this in life, like you do, you said this, you know that you cannot control other people, Matt. You can't. You can only control yourself. So they might be angry, but before it might have made you angry. It's like we react. And now, when we take a step back, we think, well, you know what? We've done all what we could. This is the way they are. We can't change them. So sometimes you need just to take a distance.
I agree. And I've had to do that in friendships that I've had, especially with people that are incapable of seeing their role.
Yeah. And you see, when again, it's about, you see, there's a quality which is very important then, I think. It's courage. People need to have courage, to be accountable. We all, and just coming back to something you said before, nobody is perfect. We are not perfect. We make mistakes, and it's absolutely fine. The only thing is, if we do mistakes, we've got to be able to say, yeah, hands up, I made a mistake, and, apologize if it was detrimental to someone. But when we have integrity with ourselves, life becomes much easier. You mentioned before wearing a mask. Most people do because this is the way we are brought up to do things that other people expect us to do or to say, right? When we, and it takes time sometimes to remove this mask because we think it's our identity. But when we manage to do that, and it's what I'm helping people to do, with mental fitness coaching, all of a sudden it's really about being the authentic version of yourself. And when you are, things become much easier because before we talked as well about, mental diseases, for instance. A lot of them come from the fact that we become completely disconnected from whom we really are. And our job is to reconnect with ourselves. Does it kind of resonate with you, what I'm saying?
Absolutely, no question. Be authentic, be true, be vulnerable. Don't sugarcoat things. Be real. Be willing to be vulnerable. I can't expect other people to be vulnerable if I myself am not vulnerable first.
And anybody who listens, this is so, so important, I think, and thank you, Matt, for saying that. We have to start. We shouldn't expect the other person to make the first step to be vulnerable, and then we are. We are the way we are. And then we see how they react. If they are fine, if they go and play it's not a game, but if they are as well vulnerable, this is how communication gets better. If they are not, it's absolutely fine as well. And then we just move on.
Absolutely.
So it's really, really important lessons of life and yeah. So what are you know, when you think about, your stays in prison and obviously everything you experience, Matt, when you look at it now, obviously now you're out and you have another life. What did it teach you, if I may ask the question?
It taught me to be disciplined.
Hmm.
If I didn't spend time in solitary confinement, I wouldn't have developed the skills to read my Bible every day, to pray every day, to get fit, to exercise. That's really, really important.
Uh-huh.
To fast, to watch what goes on in my body. My body is not my own, it belongs to God. I myself lost 100 pounds and I never once set foot in a gym. It's all about the diet. The diet is absolutely the key to losing weight. It's not about how much weight you can lift.
Hmm. Wow. This is so powerful. And may I ask, which kind of diet would did you live with, and what would you recommend to people watching today?
I was going out to eat 5 days a week to a restaurant that's not around as much anymore, but it's similar to a Wendy's or McDonald's. That's where the weight was coming. When I started not going out to eat, eating better, eating more vegetables, fruits, and watching the carbs that I put into my body, that's when I started losing weight, getting exercise, staying healthy.
So important. And yeah, I think it's mentioned in the Bible, if I'm correct, that this is the first thing we need to look after ourselves physically, because if we are not in good health, nothing nothing's going to work. Even we are not going to
Absolutely.
have energy. We're not going to have the drive to do things. And and it will alter our reactions as well. Everything.
We need to have a sound mind. We cannot be consuming illegal drugs. Be very careful about taking medication. Every medication has side effects.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you mentioned as well, Matt, your connection to God. You're reading the Bible. So I, I don't know if you are part of a local, perhaps church or community where you are, but how do you know? Again, on this aspect, what did you learn? I mean, perhaps from reading the Bible and from living this new life. What did it bring you, which perhaps you didn't have before?
Connection to higher power. When Eve and David sinned, they were idle. They were not doing what they should be doing. When
Okay.
we as human beings sin, most often it's because we are idle. We're bored. I encourage people to stop watching sports, stop watching video games, stop watching TV. I remember an individual said in 1960 that TV is a toxic wasteland. There is nothing beneficial about television. Nothing. Zero. Stop watching the news. It's only going to bring you down. Find things that will bring you up, uplift you. Gardening, reading the Bible, cooking, things that will allow you to express who you are, swimming, skiing.
Exactly. No, I mean, and see what comes to mind as well, Matt, is about understanding. what's your purpose in life? What makes you go up in the morning? You know what? Because of course, in life there are ups and downs, but and I would encourage people as well, on the same vein as what you said, to look at what are their passions as well. Like for you, swimming, for instance, you loved it, and this is like, oh wow, going swimming, it's not a chore, it's something you love to do. And everybody has passions, and sometimes they say, I don't know. Well, what did you like to do as a child? Sometimes, it could be you like drawing, you like painting, but okay, perhaps you didn't have the opportunity to do it because your parents, preferred you to do something else. So sometimes it's really, let's take a step back and see what we really love doing, and then see as well what we are good at as well. Because again, each of us has very special abilities. And I think another thing which really is important is, you mentioned it before, Matt, is how can we help? How can we help others? How can we do something which is beyond ourselves? Could be with a product, with a service, being or spending time with somebody who is lonely, for instance. Just that. And you see, there are these three components, and the last one is sometimes what can we be paid for? But paid can be money, but can be as well, for instance, rewarded. Imagine you go and help someone, and you do it for free, but you bring something, and when you put these four elements together, what we love doing, what we are good at doing, how can we help the world? And how can we be paid for one way or another? If you cross these four elements, there's a name in Japanese. It says ikigai. Ikigai means the purpose of life. It means really what is your drive. And when you have that, this is where, and this can change over time in life, but when you have that, your life is very different. And obviously, you have found your way, Matt. I suppose it's about your story and sharing and helping the world becoming a better place. Am I correct in saying that?
It is my mission to help other people. If you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram, Bullied Behind Bars, X, Bars Bullied, Facebook, Matthew.Melvin.5621. My book is available on Amazon. You can email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. Let me know how I can help you. If you have an organization that you want me to come speak, I'm happy to do that as well.
Well, thank you so much. So fully behind bars at gmail.com. Yeah.
Bullied, Bullied, Bullied Behind
Bully, sorry, bully behind bars at gmail.com. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It was really a pleasure talking to you. And if you had like three tips, even from what we discussed, you would like to leave our audience with, just like what would it be? Three pieces of advice.
Forgive those who have trespassed against you, as the Bible says.
Mhm.
Be proactive, not reactive. Don't isolate.
What was the last one? Sorry.
Don't isolate. Talk
Don't I
about
so
what your problems are. Be vulnerable. Be fearless.
ex-
Not worry about being rejected. We've
yeah,
all been rejected.
exactly. And you see on the last one, and thank you for mentioning that, don't isolate. I can add perhaps the following is surround yourself with people who are going to be supportive and with people who you will support as well, with like-minded, like-spirited people, with people who are not going to judge you or to criticize you. And I know it's not easy, but when we find them and the universe brings them, when we are, when we behave a certain way, it's very important to cultivate these relationships. So thank you again, Matt, for your time. It's been really beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom. And for everybody watching today, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. That there were a lot of points which were discussed, and I just have one little demand for everybody. It's like if it resonated with you, this conversation, and if you think that other people could benefit by listening, please share, because sharing is is caring. Sharing is giving. Sharing is loving. So thank you very much to Matt and to everybody who listened, and see you at the next episode. Bye bye.